Here we go. Yes. That's bigger.
The one that was
Move back here.
Monday, I like this for the
Yeah.
trail. We like going through, and I said, we wouldn't normally get through this back in 2 weeks.
Makes sense.
I like the lecture. I don't want to have to sit there and talk. I like conversation with happen, but I also we don't get to get. We want to try to spread out one semester worth of work into 2 semesters. So that's fine. It's like so long. And this one's a very hard. It's like, it doesn't even matter.
That's gonna go back a long fucking time. There we go. We'll get to that in a second. This is where I left off. Those things. We'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah. Let me show you some stuff. That's what we're. This first one was. CBSP. Let's see.
Does it feel good?
Well, I want to show you a few things there first. Let's see who all is over. Pick one so far. All right. Yeah, there's some messed up things. Yeah. We got a couple minutes. Actually, we got 1 minute. Yeah, so it's like, so it's like, okay, we got this major leading story about how bad abortion laws are. It's like, there's an investigation in this case now. That's the case. Yeah. Mess. And I kind of think it's not uncommon. Like that specific kind of relationship. You'd be surprised how many single mothers, the danger presented to children having a single mother in molestation. There's a high relationship there, which sucks because the fact that in our country there are so many families that are single parent or single female. Even if it's a single male parent too, it's just lower rating because you have far fewer numbers of people who were born into single dad homes. Right, you don't see that nearly the same.
If you still want to go to lunch, you can. I'm in class right now.
Big
I'm not
news
gonna
stuff going on.
Open my mic.
Talk about family thing for just a quick second. There will be some points at which we can kind of talk a little bit about that.
It's fine. Go take a nap.
Probably the big
Oh
stuff
wait,
that's
you're
going
leaving
on.
anyways.
What's going on in the world? You guys been watching the news? Government did
I'm in
not shut
class.
down. Correct. Yes.
They voted out the speaker.
Oh crap! I
Yes.
needed to leave anyway.
Yes. So because there was some dealing across the aisle, the person
Because
who
my
was
friend has my
of
wallet.
the House of Representatives is no longer. Right.
But my phone is dying. It's
So-
literally on the charger right now.
My question is what is the goal of government?
Oh.
Like right now for us, what is their goal? I don't really know. I mean, I was talking with intro people today, about an hour and a half ago. It's like, ideally what government should do is it should be run like, I've heard this argument for 501c3s, not for profits. Every one of those should run with the goal that it should no longer exist within an X number of years, right? Or
It's
we're going to keep it as small as possible because if
So-
we grow, it's like, does that mean we're
I just
addressing
need
more
you
of the
to-
problem? Maybe. What really happens is more of your money goes to
Yeah,
fund the organization
basically.
itself than actually the problem. So you end up funding the people running their careers based off this organization. The organization goes nowhere. Everybody in it is only looking to further themselves. It's like, that happens a lot. in politics. It doesn't happen nearly as much in 501c3, but it can when we start getting to the top, start getting to the big money. I am talking a little faster, I'll slow down a little bit.
But I have to be in there like for at least
Yeah,
30 minutes.
I've actually not had but one cup of coffee today. And that was like 5, 6
You wanna
hours.
wait until 11:30 and just leave?
Sleep doesn't help. man.
Yeah.
Um,
Just leave it in.
yeah, so you got the, right there's one. So you've got, House Speaker's been
Still check
ousted,
before that's not
has
even.
said publicly, he will not run again for Speaker of the House because of the fact that, I mean, if you were doing your job and got kicked out of your job, because you're doing your job, that's kind of. rough thing. There's more to it than that, of course. There was that, the interim House Speaker has kicked Nancy Pelosi out of her office. She had her own private office kind of thing, kicked her out of that. And then there was another, the other weird thing. One of the members of the House has gone on public record saying he has officially nominated someone for Speaker of the House. Did you guys hear about this one? Trump. It's like, that's gonna be an official nomination. That will come out soon. So keep your eyes peeled. Shit's getting wild. It's only gonna get worse for the next year, so keep your eyes on that. Family stuff, what I want to say about that real quick. When you start talking about specific situations, it's like. There are certain things we don't want to dictate. There are certain things that we do. But probably the most interesting thing with this one in the last few years, when I say few years, I usually mean decades, last few decades, divorce rates. As I said, it's like the risk for child molestation is higher for single moms and single fathers. Like, okay, why is that? Well, we have less numbers of single dads and single moms. Okay, well, why is that? You guys know why that is?
It's generally favored others.
They do generally favor mothers. Okay, take us back one step further. Why is it they generally favor mothers?
They're beyond just being viewed as more maternal,
Mhm.
just typically are the.
It's
More
just-
nurturing. Yeah, more nurturing. So you got the
Yes,
social.
ma'am.
side. Who files? Yeah, it's like 80 to 90% female file for divorce, right? Here in criminal justice, if you're the first person to contact criminal justice agency, report something's happened, you need an official intervention of police. Like you're requiring their assistance right now. What does that make you? Yeah, you're going in there. Say that a little louder. Yeah, yeah, it's not like criminal in nature, but the nature of that relationship is more negative towards usually whoever's filing first. Now, is that negative in terms of the actual nature of the relationship or whatever people put into relationships? It's like, that's a whole different level around here. But it's like, okay, explain that, can explain that, can explain that. Once you get that next step, I'm not gonna step. But before I start talking about specific instances, you've probably all heard of this one. Let's see, I'll share this with the Zooms in the back. That's right. Share screen, share screen one. This one right here. This one right here. So there have been a number of changes that have happened recently. You were going to raise your hand.
I think there's people that need to be in.
Oh, thank you. Because I don't see it. It doesn't show me that very well. Share
It's too
There
busy
are.
for you, Jack.
Why is there someone stuck?
back there.
Okay,
Tiny
she's
box. I
welcome.
can't quite read it from that distance at that size of font. Probably
You did a
no
rookie
reason.
mistake.
Personal information.
No, there is no way.
You did a rookie mistake.
Do I have
Yeah,
sound?
but I don't
Sometimes
have
I've not
to
been
do it.
having sound here. I just saw
Yeah,
someone's
I'm
camera
seeing
flash
personal
up.
information. See the-
I have that. Can y'all hear me online?
There. You would.
You're trying to speak. I can see that, but I'm not hearing you.
It says yes.
Yes, you can hear me. All right. Unfortunately, it looks like I can't hear you all online for some reason. What I would do, if you got something to say, type it into the chat and I'll keep my eye on the little section. If I see movement, I'll go gravitate towards it. So this would have been last year. How many of you heard of this story? Only a couple of you. That surprises me. That really surprises me. What happened last year with regards to abortion?
It got overturned.
Yeah, Roe versus Wade was overturned. We will get into that to a small degree. But this is just kind of understanding where we're at right now in terms of the law, right? So depending on the specific state's language, there are scenarios where you can have this, right? Is this honest? Is this an honest title? Is this an honest issue? You're gonna have to read the whole article and really think about it to see if that's really the case. Because they're probably lying to you in some way, just because communication is a difficult thing and transferring over someone's full intent is not easy. We'll admit this one last person. I'm gonna go back to sharing the screen. Screen one. Here we go. All right. You should be seeing my screen now. Ohio restricts abortions. 10-year-old has to travel to Indiana because in terms of victimization, it's like you can't get much more severe than that. You can. But that's in the great scheme of morality. Most American citizens would see that as one of the most reprehensible things and put that on the scale with murder. Some put it beyond. Right? Whole thing. What was actually happening in this case? Do you remember?
Ohio. Yeah, I don't remember if it was a specific doctor that wouldn't do it, but it was like general. Probably Indian for non virus.
Yeah.
For taking.
Yeah. Okay, so what was really going on here? You dig into it. Okay, first place you always want to look, what are the actual laws? Because you can pull that up and we can look to see, is that one of the exceptions for Ohio? This is a year after the fact, that might have changed, so I won't look it up. If this was the same year, I'd look it up and I'd show you what it says. I want to say I'm about 90% certain they had exceptions for rape. And if you're talking this age, that's also serious medical exceptions. You guys can get that. Everything else related to this story was bullshit. What it was it wasn't related to the fact that it's easy to get it. It's as if I go to get it, I have to disclose who this person's been having sex with. It was the mother's boyfriend. Mother opted, rather than turning the boyfriend, we'll take her across state lines and make a story about it. Yeah. People are despicable. You want to keep on the theme of lies today? It's like that. This girl kind of staring at me like, what the fuck? Yeah, people are lying to you all the damn time. Here. There's that one. Okay, that's what we talked about. We already talked about neural tube, heartbeat, that kind of stuff. Here. Planned Parenthood, this is last year, changed their website. Right? Let's see. Planned Parenthood, don't call it 6-week apartment bills anymore. Here's what they're saying. Biased language bills, including unconstitutional, no basis in this in reality. Whatever, keep going, let's see what they're actually talking about. Misleading, among the misleading talking points, fetal heartbeat, a manipulative term justified banning abortions early in pregnancies. How heartbeat language misrepresents the fact. Okay, whole bunch of them. Place false images in people's minds, false images make people view common and accepted healthcare as a moral machine. In truth, fetal heartbeat is taught misinformation, tend to deceive the press and public. At 6 weeks development, there is no heart that beats. Instead, there's a detectable activity within the 4 millimeter wide growth known as the fetal pole. There's your argument right there. That's what they're saying. It's not a heart. Okay. Is that true? Is that a lie? I'm not focusing on that one for this one. What I want you to know is that they changed the definition of how they defined it themselves to what better suits them. It's getting pretty close to a lie, isn't it? If I go through and I redefine things to fit whatever I think is best, if I'm doing a research capacity, I'm supposed to do it in a way that doesn't change the needle, right? In any direction. If I do, it's all up. It doesn't work. I am lying to everything. Everything I say that's based on it is also a problem. Ooh, that's something we didn't talk about so much. Legal, from a legal perspective. Courts, you're in the courtroom. You got a witness on the stand. You catch them in a single lie, and it can be a very minor lie. What do? Yeah, you're dishonest here. What else have you been dishonest in? Very, very quickly, everyone who's listening is no longer believing anything out of that person's mouth. Now, how they do it can be a little bit more despicable, where it's minor changes in words, you're trying to still infer the same meaning, but the 17th time you said it, you might use a different word. And if I can pull those words' meanings out just enough and say that they're really not saying the same thing, you then have to explain that to me. You look like a liar. And now everyone who's watching, go on, please. Okay. Let's see, age of viability is around 20 to 24 weeks. But that's only half, right? You can go much, much younger. That's enough of that one. This one, am I ready for this one yet? We'll get there. Born alive. That's a hell of a question. Okay, first nasty question. Okay. So that's a nasty question because it really is an awful question. Sometimes things go awry, right? Probably one of my favorite discussions in, I forget which class it's in. Sometimes I'll pull a little bit in another class, the death penalty whenever it comes up. It's like one of the most interesting things to me is not the argument on the merits of who's right, who's wrong, morality. It's like, okay, what happens when things go wrong, right? I'm trying to kill you. Do I try to bring you back before I try again? Like that kind of thing, because it just doesn't make much sense. Now I'm just torturing, right? I go in past that age of viability. Let's say it's still legal, right? Baby's got at least a 50% chance to survive at that point in time. They have an abortion, baby survives. Baby is still alive. What do we do? It's a hell of a question, isn't it? Do any of you know? That part's hard. I've got a video where I don't know if it's in that one or not. I will hesitate to show that one to you because that one is emotional to watch. Yeah. I spelled that correctly. Probably not. I talked about Venezuela in here. Starvation. Let's come up in my other classes. You know, a number of years back, they were having some very serious economic issues in Venezuela. Because of that, cost of everything massively increased. People couldn't afford food. People started dying of starvation shortly thereafter. The government fixed it. You know how they did it? Could no longer list starvation as a cause of death. Starvation went down to 0 overnight. It's a lie. They're lying to you again. Again. Does this happen? Yeah. What do? They're supposed to go and save the baby. Supposed to, because at that point in time, most everyone would say that you are alive. You are a baby, right? Not always what they do. It's not what they do most of the time. Not that. That'll be over here. I'm gonna look for fours. These are in alphabetical order. You have to go like that. It's open. Some of those haven't opened in a while. That's the one, if you're born alive. Okay. I'll ask you, you guys want to see it? You want to find out what happens? Raise your hand if you want to find out. Okay.
I don't really know. Sure.
Got most people. This is your warning. This is the one time I'll let you guys leave class. Like, you can leave class at any point in time, but this is one point in time. So it's like, if this does get emotional, you need to leave. I completely understand. You don't say a word. Okay.
Our next guest joins us for reaction and analysis, and she has powerful insight into the Born Alive bill because as a nurse, she claims to have witnessed babies being aborted alive without medical care. Jill Stanek is now the national campaign chair for the Susan B. Anthony list. Jill, thanks for being with us on this very busy pro-life week.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can you briefly share with us what you witnessed?
Sure. I was a nurse in 1999 at Christ Hospital in Oakland, Illinois, when I discovered the hospital was not only involved in late-term abortions, but sometimes babies survive. And if they survived, they were shelved to die in the soiled utility room. So one night a nursing coworker was taking a little abortion survivor, aborted at 21 weeks with Down syndrome, that's why he'd been aborted, to the soiled utility room to die, and I couldn't let him die alone, so I rocked him for the 45 minutes that he lived.
And that changed the course of your life.
It did, in the course of 45 minutes, and maybe no pro-life activists for sure.
And it was back in 2002, so
Right.
16 years ago, that President George W. Bush invited you to be with him when he signed the Born Alive Infants Protection Act. So how is the House bill different than that? What's the update?
Well, the Born Alive Infant Protection Act was just a definitions bill, defined what it means to be a legal person when born, and it says that you should be protected, but it didn't do anything more than that. So the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Act adds teeth to the Born Alive Act.
Okay.
And it says that abortionists and staff can be prosecuted, they might even be imprisoned and fined, and that moms can have civil opportunities to file civil lawsuits.
That seems pretty straightforward, right? That's true. Some places have, some places don't. Okay? Now, did that happen? Probably. Yeah, probably. Is that murder? Leaving a freshly born baby to just expire in the soiled utility room? So this is the dirty laundry room? I'm just gonna stick him in there. Okay, if I'm an 18-year-old girl, I have a baby and I stick it in the laundry room and leave it there to die. Is that murder? Yeah, okay. Maybe this one should pass, maybe it shouldn't, depending on how they specifically define it. When it gets in its hands, legislators get their hands on it. Maybe it'll actually, sometimes not, right? Are they lying to you? Maybe. Maybe, right? How bad are the lies? I think this one probably should. I found one, this is a few years back, it's not one I watched. I think I watched it this morning, yeah. But saw it and I was like, you got a typo, what the hell is this? Okay, so this one's kind of funny, because these are both sticking points on either side of the aisle related to, one's related to this, one's related to a different topic, and then what I'll do is I'll show you, they're both lying to you. Right, okay, start.
Last month, when you called Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, a person whom you enormously admire.
Okay, stop right there. Started to former Secretary of State, presidential forerunner Hillary Clinton. This is years and years ago. I don't remember how old it is. But what it is he's asking her about a statement she had given where she said she has an enormous respect for Margaret Sanger, something to that effect. That's true. She did say that. Continue.
Was stunning to me. Margaret Sanger clearly embraced bigotry and racism. She advocated for the elimination of the disabled, the downtrodden, and the Black child. In one of her writings, she said, "Today, eugenics is suggested by the most diverse minds as the most adequate and thorough avenue to the solution of racial, political, and social problems."
Did she say that? Or yeah, did Margaret Sanger say that? Yes. What are we missing? Context of all the words written around it, right? Probably missing something there. I would be highly suspect for whatever specific speech is being referenced. What is it about? Are we trying to deal with issues such as genetic diseases? How do you do that? Right? Okay. Let's do this first. So you want to see the lie directly. This was, let's see, on my email, because I don't need to back into that. Lightning fast. This is Drive. We were in that folder. I shared it myself. Of course, they're not in the folder. Come on. And of course, it's not there. Great. So he's talking about writings related to eugenics, Margaret Sanger. He talked about some genetic issues, politics. What is that? Let's roll down here, see if I've got it. Maybe it's in my email. Nope, not that email. The other email. No, I do that one. Boom. There. It's gonna be attached to one of these two things. Not that one. Okay. We'll get there. No, I've got it written in here. Sanger. Different contexts. That's all stuff we'll get into here in a minute. And we'll talk about numbers. What I want to see is Sanger, letter, Blacks. Okay, it's gonna be fact check. I don't really care about that. I just want you to see the letter. Verdict, yeah, it's gonna be missing context. Where's the letter?
Is there a link?
Yeah, example can be seen here. That's not what I want. All right, I want, give me the image. There is an image. Here we go. There we go. There's the actual image. This is from Smith College Libraries. Let's say we want this. Save image as. Whatever. Open it. And we can read it. All right. This is a personal letter to Gamble from one Margaret Sanger. It's good to see you feeling better, with the help of Thanksgiving. Glad to learn that she was able to get $250 from a foreign birth control organization. Money. They're good enough to send out rough draft. Okay, personal stuff. Nope, that's not the right one. Because there's one where she talks about we do not want word to go out. Do not. This one. Here we go. It seems to me from my experience where I have been in North Carolina, that the colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors they can get close to in their own members. They do not do this with white people. Here we go. Do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Sinister is the man that can straighten out the idea if it ever secures ministers. So they're using the churches to deal with the concern that Blacks were worried that this was a eugenics project to destroy the race. Was that the purpose of this? No. Two ways to interpret that. One, you're trying to hide something. Two, you're trying to not let people misunderstand exactly what the purpose of this is. Right? People will read that on one side of the aisle and interpret it one way. That's eugenics. Right? This is supporting the exterminate now. Could be, you need to investigate further. Right? From there, the next line.
Let me say with respect to your comments about Margaret Sanger, you know, I admire Thomas Jefferson. I admire his words and his leadership, and I deplore his unrepentant slaveholding.
Lie. Let's go back to name. I think of name or yeah, Thomas Jefferson's attitudes towards slavery. All men are created equal, also profit directly of the institution. He's consistent opponent of slavery. State laws disallowed him from freeing his slaves upon his death. That's the only exception to that law there at that time. What happened when he died? He went free. Lies. They're everywhere. All right. So back to David. So The next thing I need to show you. Is the video. For. Ah, there it is. We do not want the word to go out. There's the video. Sanger, Planned Parenthood, 1916. So this is about the creation of Planned Parenthood in 1916. This is a whole, what was a TV show, it was a debate. This is how we used to do things in TV. Like this is what we used to use it for. Good stuff.
And now to our story. When Mrs. Margaret Sanger opened the first birth control clinic in the United States back in 1916, birth control was a dirty word. The police threw her into jail as they were to do 7 more times during her crusade, a crusade that still faces the reasoning but unalterable opposition of the Roman Catholic Church. That crusade kept Mrs. Sanger away from her children for long periods. It helped to break up her first marriage, and she suffered constant, harrowing social abuse. Mrs. Sanger, in view of all of that, let me ask you this first of all. Why did you do it? I realize that you had an intellectual conviction that birth control was a boon to mankind, but I'm sure that others have that conviction too. And so what I'd like to know is this. What events, what emotions in your life made Margaret Sanger a crusader for birth control?
Well, Mr. Wallace, it's hard to say that any one thing has made one do this or that. I think from the very beginning, I came with a large family. My mother died young, 11 children. It made an impression on me as a child. I was a trained nurse, went among the people. I saw women who asked to have some means whereby they wouldn't have to have another pregnancy too early after the last child, the last abortion, which many of them had. So there's a number of things that are one after the other that really made you feel that you had to do something.
There are some other possible reasons that suggest themselves on reading your biography by Lawrence later. Your mother, as you say, died prematurely after bearing 11 children. She was born a Catholic, was she not?
She was born a Catholic, yes.
And your father was a sort of
Yeah, I don't care about family stuff. We do talk about Catholic. I mentioned that already. That's one of the reasons why there is that pull apart in religions, because they view that all form of birth control is the same thing as this. No, not exactly. Reasonable, right? That is reasonable. If you're talking 1916, the context of that point in time, 11 kids. Yeah, that's what most people had. About you'd get pregnant, you'd have a kid. A few months later, you'd have pregnant again. You'd have another kid. And you do that until you stop having kids or you died. Like that was life. That's kind of a crappy way to live. Yeah, we do need some means of control for it. She mentioned abortions already. Yeah, before Planned Parenthood, there were plenty of kids that were murdered, right? It's like, oh gosh, what was was it Greeks? What group of Greeks was it that would take their kids? And if there was any issues at all, they just throw them and leave them somewhere? Was it Sparta? Was that what it was?
Spartans.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we're fucking awful. We're horrible people. We're doing much better in the scale of how good we are, but that's in a really short time frame. People would still take care of it that way. Sort of like birth control back before we had the pill, like we had condoms. It's like, were they very effective? No. What other means were there? If you were a prostitute, what was the purpose of a silver dollar? Yeah, uses a diaphragm, right? It's like, that's how archaic it was. Like, that's not a good situation. We do need some type of way to control things that can put you in jeopardy of losing your life, right? Bit of a different context than today. A lot of things have changed since then. All right. I need to jump to, here's what she talks a little bit about Europe, 448. That work.
You have helped to spread the birth.
You helped to spread the birth control to Europe. I do want to go back because there was another thing he had mentioned, getting introducing her. The fact that she was divorced. It's like, stop and think about the context of the time. That's salacious for back then, right? You're talking, this is probably in the 50s maybe. So yeah, it's like, you're gonna be a social outcast from the very beginning, and now you're pushing an issue like this, so you do have that whole aspect involved as well.
Control movement, not only here in the United States, but in Europe and the Orient as well. Why? Why is birth control of such vital importance internationally? Is it just to save women suffering? Is that the only reason in your mind?
Well, not entirely. The population question is a great concern today, and the rate at which the births come in to we're saving them now. At one time, the children died. They didn't have the food. Today, our population all over the world is getting certainly better consideration and better conditions than they had at the time that I was there. I went to every country because I was invited. And I didn't go into the country myself. And I was invited to go to Japan and to speak there, have 8 lectures on the question of birth control and peace.
Well, do you believe that birth control is essential if we want to keep millions of people across the world from starving? Is that your thesis?
Oh, say it again.
Do you feel that birth control is essential to keep millions of people across the world from starving?
Well, I think the birth control will keep the population more or less static until you pick up your resources. Certainly, you'll prevent their starving.
Or what's more important, birth control or picking up the resources?
Well, picking up the resources, there's just a limit to that, too. There's just so much, take Japan.
Resources and population control. You guys heard any arguments about resources and there's too many people recently? Yeah. That is not a new argument. Not at all. They were having that argument 70 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. What was the population back then? What is the population now? Have things gotten better or worse? And which came first? They're going to be tied, right? Always have careful consideration anytime that discussion comes up. Like whenever the Marvel movies came out and they had the big one a few years back, the big couple one, whatever they were. The last one was Endgame, right? I could come in here and I could ask, how many of you think Thanos is right? Resources are limited. We do need to control the population, right? A lot of people would agree to that. Okay, how do you get your resources? A phone in front of you. I've asked this before. How did it get there?
Someone made it. People have to gather the resources, work.
People. You don't get the resources without people, right? If we want to go back to where there's fewer people, guess what? The number of things that you have to do just to maintain yourself massively increases. Think fresh water. Just water. Not even fresh water, just water. Like hell. Wait till the middle of summer, go out anywhere wild where there's not immediate water sources right here and now. Like this area is really good for that. There's a lot of fresh water. Go out to the desert, see how long you last. Yeah, no, you won't do that. People shouldn't. Here, the next thing she talks about is she starts talking a little bit about, I remember her name was, I think it says caliche. It's some type of ground. I'm not a geologist. Basically what she's talking about is like, these grounds are not capable of producing food. If the ground is so hard in some of these areas, you actually have to blow it up before you can do anything with the land. It's that hard, right? And so there are environments like that. There's also more productivity. All those systems built on one another over the years to help the population. Okay, so that's 6. I want to let it play for another minute. Said it should go on a little bit longer, I think. That's where she's talking about.
And she cannot feed. They've had the best experts come there when MacArthur was there. And the best experts have said they have 20 million more people than they can feed. She's got to be fed outside in some way. She's got to have that kind of help if she's going to keep from fighting.
But certainly around the world, there is potential agricultural land that is not being properly used now. Just this past year, on May 21st, in New York.
I don't care about you talking. Here's what she's
Huckleberry.
talking about.
I never heard of anyone that would agree with that we could have another guy in the world.
Another third.
Another third.
Well,
to the ground in order to have a little shrub, have, you know, a little grass or a few flowers. So many problems that, when it comes to that. And the demographers, I never heard of anyone that would agree with that, if we could have another in the world.
Another.
So we asked her, so if the population were to grow by another third, would that, is that possible? It's like, I've never heard that. I've never heard that even possible, like a population to grow by a third, right? This, we'll just say, ballpark figure, we'll go more recent. World population, 1960. 3 billion. 1960. World population, 2020. Oh, that's 2002. That's 6 billion. Okay. 7 billion. About 4 times what it was. And we're still going. Have we run out of food yet? No. You know, sometimes we've run out of food. When does that happen on large scales here in our world?
North Korea, China, Korea.
Usually government, right? Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Bad government. Okay. I think that might, is there anything else I need to talk about? She goes on about that. I usually point that out. It's like people have those conversations a lot. That's usually the popular one comes up is we can control these things because resources, everybody's survival, all the environmental stuff. And it's like, okay, let's stop and look and see what's developed. So that way I really know what's there. Once I know what's there, I can start to understand where we need to go. What I'm trying to teach you with this is the reason why I'm breaking all these things down. This is what you should do for every single thing that you learn about in before you, as you're learning the laws in here, because we're going to jump through the laws here in a little bit. It's like you need to understand what's going on in society because that's going to be driving the laws. If you got a lot of bad information, the laws are going to be crappy, right? You got people who are purposely lying to advance their own careers, laws are going to be crappy, right? You got, we got so many different things that could take place. It just completely derails this. What do I think you need to know most? The process of breaking things down, you should apply that to every topic that's in here. In this class, when we move into other topics, other crimes, I'm going to expect you to do that to some degree, right? You should know something about it. They will have to wait because I don't understand it. Because I'm only going to go into this detail with this just first one. This is the first time we're really getting into a topic, right? The more things you do that with, the stronger you are at doing that, the more things you can do it to, the better you'll understand everything. The more that you learn related to any one topic, guess what? Knowledge is power. It literally is, right? Just in the course of this conversation, there are 3 different major talking points on both sides of the aisle. And someone can come out and you and like, I hear somebody having an argument with this. Hey, guess what? You're both wrong. Here, look, listen to this. And now you can have a conversation again. Now you're not going to get angry at each other and split off and go to your own little worlds, and then you have warring societies. That's what we want to try to avoid. From here, what I want to show you is she starts talking about the population stuff, particularly Roman Catholics and popular vote and that kind of stuff, how they control that at that point in time. We've already talked heavily about the influence of culture in society, so I'm going to skip over all that. Okay. So here's where we start talking about. From there, because that's history. Get rid of this. Marker up here. One more marker. I did something with it. That one probably didn't get it. I've got more. Should have more. Yeah, there's another one. All right. So we want to talk about now. Already talked about the past. What's going on now? We've mentioned Roe v. Wade. What did Roe v. Wade do?
The abortion, or like the access to like.
Abortion, medical care, access, privacy, Roe v. No, actually, I need to go to Google Scholar to actually pull it up. Scholar.google.com. We're gonna say Roe v. Wade. If I spelled it correctly. Don't care about the topic. I'm not looking for articles. I want federal. I want that actual case right here. This would be more recent. All right, 1973 Supreme Court case. Here's the details of it. On the task, institution measurement, free motion privilege, medical history, attitudes, the abortion issue, and privacy is going to underlie it as well. So just in this one issue, most people only think of this one. All these others are tied to it. Pick your talking point. Control the argument, control the conversation. That's what people do, right? Talking about this issue. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly but subtly switch it to this one. And maybe I'm going to confuse it with this, right? And then we really need to focus in on that one. It is a privacy issue. All right. Have you read this? How long is this? That's 26 pages. I haven't even read it in full. Right? That's going to give you many details, many citations, all that kind of stuff. Right? Oh, Roe versus Wade. On what grounds? Question mark. What about it? What did it do? Some of you probably know what it did. Some of you don't. Some of you will know why. Ideally, all of you should know what it did and why. Okay? I'm gonna leave that on you. After you've got kind of a good understanding of this, the federal level, then you can understand how the state works, because the state's going to operate within it. Right? That's where you get to the state statutes. You there yet, or do you see the size of the problem? I don't know, we've got 6 minutes. Do you guys want to see the statutes first, or do you want to see the size of the problem? Maybe size of the problem. This is going to be an older one, because the last time I did this was about 4 years ago. 3 years ago was the last time. Oh, that's something else. I talked on it. Last time I really taught on it, though. Let's see here. That will be, where is the survey? That right here. Abortion surveillance. This is 2015, so they'll have one that came out 2020. Last time I did this, they hadn't. Okay, here's what it gives you. Information, introduction, methods, results, discussions, references. All the skills that we're giving you while we're going through this program, it's so you understand this, and if you want to get involved in this stuff, you can actually research it and have some measure of influence to some degree. Ideally, you're not trying to influence yourself in any other way than positive, but that's going to vary a lot for people, so you see get on other sides. But this one, I tend to stay out of it. It's just such an easy topic. Okay, since 1969, CDC has conducted abortion surveillance to document the number and characteristics of those obtaining abortions. Period cut. 1 year. This is 1 year. Description of systems. Here are all the places it hits. It hits all 50 states. They're trying to get it. And here's how they present that information. Okay. Abortion data for these were provided for that 10-year period to analyze trends. Census and natality were included to calculate abortion rates. They give you a rate. Number of abortions for women age 15 to 44, and a ratio, number of abortions per live births. That's the one I have a problem with. People be more understanding of what it really is. What you need to do is you need to figure out, instead of that number, Oh, this is a little precursor for methods if you've not taken that. If you're doing social stuff, it's like there's math involved. It's a tiny, tiny little bit of math. What it really is logic. It's more logic than anything. Okay, number of abortions per live birth. If I want to know a real percentage, what I want to know is number per total, right? I want to know the percentage. I've got $1. I've got 100 pennies. It's 100%, right? I'm not gonna ask, okay, I've got 44 cents left. How much did I spend in the little gumball machine, right? Why don't I just give you that number? Because that number is gonna be horrible. Results. 11 per 1,000 women. Abortion rate, 188 per 1,000 births. Okay? So it gives you a rate of that. So out of live births, this is less than 20%, right? But that's not really what this is. It's not, that wouldn't make any sense to do it like that. So you have to go. Yeah, we're talking about 188 per 1,188. And that's just total known, because how many people don't know? That's why I had that whole conversation with you last time about, okay, how many people engaged in sex had their normal cycle? That egg was fertilized. It's like it just didn't attach. You'll never know, right? It's like you won't know if you drop an egg. You won't, like, we know like very, very, very little.
It's also so good, it's gonna count for
You know.
other ones.
No. And so it's like, this is a very low ball number for that. So it's like, this number will kind of overstate it a little bit because that total number will increase. But what you look at is 118 divided by, we'll say, I did 118, didn't I? Not 188. I don't count. This is why I use programs to do it for me. I'm horrible. 16%. Okay. Yeah, that number is a little high, but you're also not considering the dark numbers, which are going to be on both sides. Those that are illegal and unknown. And so we've got no way of figuring those. So this is the best we can do. You raise your hand? No, okay. So from the ground, you're running at, see, it's 15, it was a rate. Don't do that. Okay, we'll make it real simple. Okay, we'll round it down and say it's 10%, right? 10%. Population look like if we didn't choose to remove 10%. How many years would it take to reshape our entire society? Right? What's your rate by demographic group? Right? What's the relationship between resources and demographic group? I'll tell you a lot about this number. Here's the punchline for today. See if I've got it in there. Yes, I know we're out of time. 2 more minutes. Not even. No, not that. No, not that. Being in New York, if you're Black and in New York, you're more likely to be aborted than born. Yeah.
Like there's concentration of.
Yes, that's probably in this one. Bring this around back up here. Surveillance. That one. I'll have it for you next time. Surveillance, check your fact. This one. Oh, by the way, just since Wade, that's 60 million. Of course, we're missing 8 years of it and all the time before it. Kind of put that in scale for you. If you consider those lives, how many lives have been lost in war? All war in human history. couple 100 million to 1 billion. We don't know because one, population is smaller, and we don't have good estimates. Same scale. Same scale, we're on the same scale. That's something to think about. I'll let you guys go. Have a great one. We'll pick up and we'll move to the statutes next time. Now, you guys have a little bit bigger understanding of both sides of that issue as best as we can for that. With that, I will bid all the rest of you adieu for today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.